All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Indicator Flight Club. Got a different one for you today because rather than having Market Cipher go up against a different competitor, we're going to be doing Market Cipher versus Market Cipher. So if you ever remember playing like Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter back in the day and you both had the same character, and you were like, dude, you can't pick that guy. I'm picking that guy. You're ruining it. Well, it's not going to ruin it today because it's going to be super interesting. So here we go. It's going to be Divergence, except we are going to be pitting the momentum wave divergence versus the VWAP divergence. And we're going to try to see which one works out better. And even if it doesn't end up being overall better, we'll see which one is better for which kind of situation, maybe which time frames, and try to get a better idea of, when is best to use one or the other, and maybe some external factors that might come into play as well, like the money flow. So let's take off here. As you can see right now, we are on the Ethereum 12-minute. Looking at the chart, and you can see the yellow line right here is the momentum divergence. Now, this, magenta pinkish line right here is the VWAP divergence, but not on this time frame. That's why it does not look like it right here. So we're going to switch to another time frame to show that. But real quick, so we have the lows getting lower over here on the price. And down here on the momentum, we have the lows getting higher. Classic divergence right there. And again, you can see we have this. So from this point right here to that point right there. And it played out pretty darn nice. As a matter of fact, I actually took that trade right where that green line is at. That was my entry price right there. Originally had the stop loss down here, ended up bumping it up here a little bit just because I'm like, if it's pulling back to here, then just re-enter or something or see how it goes. No, I don't want to re-enter, but I just kind of slowly stepped it up as the price continued to go up. It was nice and steady. Really hit the first little pause, little break right about there. Held out through that one. Then we came up here, got our little red dot, pulled back a little bit. Definitely had some volatility going through here. And I think it was like around here when we put in a little bit of a lower high. Started turning to the downside. Already had one VWAP cross. Had this guy, I was like, okay. And at one point, this was starting to clip, looking like we were going to get some bearish divergence there for a minute. And then I ended up having to go do something else at work. So I think I ended up cutting out like right around here, which is kind of a shame because as you can tell, we did pump up a little bit further, but that's okay because I was not at the computer to actually watch to see what was going on. And no, man, we're taking off again, huh? Interesting. But as you could say, that played out pretty well, and it's over here on the 12-minute. Now let's just look at this situation right here, and let's say we go up to the 24, and we do still have some of the momentum wave. Let me get rid of my scribblings here. We do have some momentum wave divergence still showing up on the 24. But as you can see now, we are actually starting to see some VWAP divergence kicking in. So you think, okay, well, we probably saw momentum wave over here on the lower time frames. But it wasn't until we got to, getting up into the mid time frames here that it showed up on the VWAP. So let's go up to the 30-minute, see what we have here. Still nice, showing up on the VWAP, and you can see that it's actually stretching back further throughout this whole little downtrend, this little swing down right there. And you can start it all the way from back here to up here, which is nice strong little trend right there with the VWAP, which kind of told me that as we were coming down, it was starting to trend up a little bit. And after we've been talking about this VWAP divergence quite a bit lately, I'm going to take a shot. I'm going to see how it goes here. Tried to hit it a little bit around where there was a VWAP cross, but on a lower time frame when I was doing it. But as you can see, we still have the hint of a momentum wave divergence. So we kind of got them both going at the same time here. Then we come up to the 1 hour, which is the original time frame that I had drawn this VWAP divergence on. And I was like, okay, we're seeing it on the 1 hour. That's pretty encouraging. As you can see, we don't have the momentum wave divergence any longer. At this point, our two little swoops, our little waves right there, were in line with the price, so not divergent. So we lost the momentum wave divergence, but had a very nice VWAP divergence going. And as you can see, we crossed over and broke out. We're still above the zero line after that one. So it's pretty safe to say that it worked out fairly well. And if you wanted some more confirmation while we were in this downtrend, you can see the RSIs are splitting. And as we started coming back up, those RSIs started coming back together, gaining strength all the way up to the moment where we actually have them solid as one line. So that could be some extra confirmation if you're looking for more than just one sign. If maybe if you're not super comfortable about going in strictly off of a little VWAP divergence, because also at the time, keep in mind we had an opposite sign. There we go. And so you had the money flow coming down, and you wouldn't have necessarily known at the time that this was going to cross right back up into the green. Particularly where I entered, we were still coming down in the red, but it was weak. It was kind of going sideways. It wasn't a very sharp downward angle. So I was kind of willing to take a chance on that one, as well as already seeing, those RSIs starting to come together a little bit. And especially on this first candle, it can be a little tough to tell. But if you want, you can drop this guy down and you can go and grab some numbers off it right here, right above the cursor right there. Maybe you go from here to here, subtract the two, you can see, all right, this number is smaller than that number. They're getting closer together, if you should be so inclined to want to do that. And as you can see, just moving on from there, money flow not super strong in any direction. And even though we did have a nice solid little pump to the upside here, even while it was doing it, we were never really getting big jumps in the candles. It was just kind of this slow and steady, the kind of crawl upward. So it was an interesting one to watch for sure. It wasn't I'll bet you if I turn the volume on here. Yeah, it wasn't anything spectacular in the volume, and it decreased as we were going up. So I was not super enthusiastic about letting it run, although really I should have. I mean, shit, if I had left it open, I'd still have it open right now even. But we still haven't quite, regained the high that we hit before. So we'll see where it goes. But, we got the VWAP going sideways now. And money flows looking like it wants to pop back up into the green. It's not quite there yet. But it is, what do we got? Negative 0.28. So it's basically on the zero line. But let's keep going up here. Let's see what we can see. So up here on the 2 hour, we still have some VWAP divergence going on right there. As you can see, price coming down. VWAP getting these little corners, these little points that are higher up. As far as, might as well get rid of this now. As far as the momentum wave, I don't know if I would necessarily count this one. I probably wouldn't, because remember you have this leading and this lagging wave. And I don't think you can count between the two, because technically this would be like the same peak. It's just because they're leading and lagging. I wouldn't necessarily call that divergent. You know, it's got to be between, you know, blue and blue, or dark blue and dark blue, or you could do light blue and light blue, I suppose. Don't quote me on that. I haven't actually tried that yet, but seems like it makes sense. If we continue up to the 3 hour, okay, we've lost our VWAP divergence. It's just one solid little dip at this point. But if we zoom out, because, you know, we are on a higher time frame, so let's zoom out a little bit, see what we got. We have, you know, highs increasing, but we have another bearish VWAP divergence going on here, which would have foretold, you know, this a little bit of a pullback right there. And an interesting thing we've got going here, potentially an anchor and a trigger wave, which, you know, this is up here on the 3, and I believe, no, not the 4, just the 3, huh? Okay, a little bit here on the 2 as well, but I'm curious to see how that goes, because overall we do have money flow decreasing. But let's take it back a little bit. Let's see what else we can find to compare the two. You know what, let's go up to some higher time frames here and see what we have. So another fairly clear divergence right here on the momentum waves. If this does continue, and move this out of the way a little bit, if this does continue to the downside here on the momentum wave, we would have some bearish divergence. It's getting a little flaky up here though. It's not very smooth curvature. But again, something to keep in mind is money flow is still increasing. And this is one of the drawbacks, I guess you could say, that I wanted to point out specifically with the momentum wave divergences that I've been noticing is, you know, if money flow is increasing and you get some bearish divergence on the momentum waves, it may not play out the way that you might think it would. You know, you start seeing, we're up here on a 12-hour, you're seeing, you know, these big waves and fairly big divergence right there. You know, you might be thinking, okay, we should see like a pretty decent pullback, you know, maybe to this golden pocket over here. But if money flow continues to increase, you probably won't see that, at least not yet. I mean, if this does continue to increase, you know, we could have the wave just continue up kind of like we did right here. You know, because technically we did have some bearish divergence right there. But as you can see, what we got, a tiny weak little red candle right there. Not very much at all. So let's see what the VWAP's doing on this time frame, this situation right here. So just kind of going across, increasing with the price, so not divergent as of yet. Got a couple little bumps here, but it's kind of a rough one to call right there. I don't know, that's fairly close together. I mean, technically, yes, because the price is going up and the VWAP is getting lower highs. So, you know, technically it would be divergent, and maybe that's all we got, was just this little pullback right here, because money flow is still increasing. And the money flow is going to not overrule the divergence, but think of the money flow like the tide of the ocean. You know, whether you're a high tide or low tide, this high tide is definitely going to push the water level up And so even though a boat goes by and you get a wave, you know, maybe the divergence is, you know, foretelling of a low wave. But even though you're getting a low wave, the fact that the tide's super high, you know, it's only going to equal a little bit, relatively speaking. It's not a great comparison, but whatever. If you got a better one, you tell me. All right. Let's see if we go back, try to find another one. So we have a wee little bullish divergence right here on the momentum wave. You know, small on the momentum wave, big on the price. And interestingly, we've got a nice long VWAP divergence going on as well. Really coming from all the way back here across the entire downtrend, which is one thing that is both interesting and almost potentially dangerous a little bit. Is, you know, if you see this and say, you know, we're right here on the time frame. It just disappeared on me, huh? Say we're right here. And you're like, oh, okay, we got the VWAP. We're seeing some bullish divergence in the VWAP right here, which would be around here. Now, obviously, jumping in on a long right there would not have worked out very well for you. At least not on the 12-hour. You know, I bet you if we came down to the 1 hour, maybe we had a little pick-me-up right there. But, you know, following this out, just dragged out this upward VWAP, which, keep in mind, remember, if you're dragging it out real slow, it's just prolonging whatever trend you are already in. But then as we poke down here, it's almost like we had an anchor and a trigger wave on the VWAP a little bit. And at this point, especially when you're getting close to the zero line, when you're just poking down, just like a trigger wave, and you've got this steady divergence going, usually that is the time you might want to go in. Not to mention the fact that we had, you know, this big old dipping candle right there, which is like a parabolic bottom, if you will, rather than a parabolic top. Let's see what we have back here. Oh, it's ever so slight right there. That would have been a rough one. Not to mention, money flow is still definitely decreasing. Speaking of, you know, money flow was increasing, but man, it just kind of riding sideways there for a little bit. So it'd be hard to use the money flow as a secondary indicator on that VWAP divergence. Again, that's something you're definitely going to have to work out for if that is a single signal that you're looking for. Now, obviously, seeing this and then getting the momentum wave divergence on top of that, you know, that'd be all in at that point. You know, having that complementing signals going on is like the best thing that you're looking for. And also, you know, RSIs getting big split, running out of bearish strength, did pick back up. You know, so this guy, it very well could be that, you know, this guy knocked you out of your stop loss right there. That's a pretty dangerous little downtrend, to be honest, because, you know, RSIs seem like they're starting to head up, and they seem like they were maybe getting a little closer together. You know, but then had this guy, which was, you know, getting closer together even more, so strong to the downside, before, you know, bouncing back with fairly tight RSIs there to the upside. So this is one I'm going to be paying attention to in the future is, you know, when we get these bullish divergences on the VWAP, you know, how close it is to the zero line. Because again, you can think of it just like a trigger wave. You know, nice and big, just barely poke below, which if you're only going this far down, you have a decent amount of bullish pressure, you know, keeping that up, keeping the boat afloat. Let's see, and again, right here, not this one, you know, by the time we did get this, as well as even if you waited, you know, for the crossover at the 0, you know, money flow was coming up. RSI's, you know, relatively tight at the time of the cross, probably pretty steady distance, started coming together a little bit after. Would have been, I mean, not only a decent couple of signals, not to mention got that bullish divergence on the momentum waves as well. So that's a super solid swing trade entry right there. Which is what has me wondering what we're going to do here. 'Cause, I mean, obviously RSIs are still super strong, hanging out up top. You know, even have like it's not a divergence, just keep in mind, but, you know, uptrend going here on the VWAP. But, you know, it's been weak to the upside. It hasn't really gotten much gas to the upside there, despite the fact that we are, you know, pumping in an uptrend. But seeing a little, you know, uptrend in the VWAP here, it'd be nice to see this guy cross, you know, and finally put a little distance between it and the 0 line. Particularly if money flow continues to the upside. So that's the 12-hour forecast right there. But let's come back down. Because I think we've fairly well showed that VWAP divergences, particularly on the middle and higher time frames, are a very good thing. Let's see what we get on something a little lower here, like the 12-minute. You know, not showing down here. Here we're still increasing to the downside right there along with the money flow. Oh, bit of a double bottom right here. And again, you know, sometimes it's, I'm not going to say it's every time, but, you know, fairly safe most of the time with these double bottoms on the momentum waves. You know, came back up. Definitely came back up. Here's a nice one. Between there and there. Didn't necessarily amount to much. A little bit of sideways action. But keep in mind, you know, not every divergence is going to be a large trend reversal. Or it could be a reversal. Problem is, it just doesn't have any strength to take it anywhere. Yeah, a bit of a double bottom on the VWAP there. Now here, kind of have two going on here. Money flow still increasing on this first little one right there, as well as momentum waves still, you know, stepping up fairly significantly. Did have, you know, this big old candle right there. So likely went up, came back down, came back up. So that's about, you know, all the play that we got out of that one. But again, you know, money flow increasing. And then we got this larger one as money flow started coming down. You know, went here, came back, lower high. So again, you know, if you set your stop loss a little bit above that previous high, you would have been all right, because very often, you know, do you have to ride out one more little pullback just to, you know, put in a new high, or, you know, I mean, draw that first one, or put in a new low as you get that reversal, especially when you're trying to time it, you know, right at the reversal point. So would have hung in there, would have been cool, would have had a nice short. You know, played out fairly nicely right there. So what do you guys think? You know, what's your opinion? Do you like the momentum wave divergence more? Or do you like the VWAP divergence more? You know, they definitely both have their uses. And when you see them together, you know, that's like double lotto right there. Like, all right, you know you're good at that point. You know, similar situation here. Even continued, even though we had a lower high up here, so technically that's not divergent, so it'd really be like this. Yeah, technically you could call it back here, but that's not a very good one. Those are about the same height. You know, seeing that VWAP divergence and then catching that momentum divergence. Say you hit it when it crossed 0 would be this candle right here. Yeah, not a bad little short, a little volatile, but seen it coming down. Started catching some bullish divergence on the VWAP. Got out when it crossed. Got out about there. Yeah, 0.7%. But that's why you use leverage. Yeah, nice little scalp. So, you know, it works for scalps, works for swings, works for all kinds of things. Now, an interesting one I'm curious to check out that I don't even think I've ever really looked at is, what if we were to come up to something like the weekly here, you know, where you're looking at these big macro trends in the market. What do we have here? Higher highs, lower momentum wave, lower VWAP, money flow decreasing. If I would have known more about these signals that we're talking about right here, even just in this video, you know, had I known that as well as I do now back here, that would have been a beautiful way to sell the top right there. I mean, probably could have nailed it to somewhere in that little circle. Like, I don't have the slightest doubt, you know, knowing what we've been talking about, could have absolutely nailed hitting that top for right there. Now, you know, keep in mind, we may continue up. So, you know, even if we sold that top, that's only half the battle. Still got to be able to figure out a bottom. So, ideally, you know, we'd want to buy back in somewhere down here. Even if it's only temporary, maybe we turn back here and say, oh shit, all right, hop back out. So maybe if that's what you're trying to, if you're trying to manage your spot positions, your hodl positions, say you want to take advantage of, you know, this volatility and just hit some longer term trades, you know, some nice big spot trade, or you could just do even, you know, derivative trades if you're overly patient, then this would be a fantastic way to do it. So let's see if we can. I'd say we pretty much cleared up. Oh, nice thunder. Very nice. So we had bearish divergence right there. You know, could have hit profit on this guy. Even just say spot, you know, or not even counting, you know, regular trading. You know, even if you sold somewhere up there, doesn't have to be the, you know, the absolute top. You know, maybe you hit it when the VWAP crossed back down, at which point you'd at least be on that week, you know, that weekly candle right there. Got almost a double bottom. Technically, I think this one's lower. We got 1706, 1700, 1728. So actually, this guy was the lowest. Let's see what we got here. We got a little bit of a trigger wave going there. Although there's really not much of an anchor wave behind it. You know, this guy right here is more like a, you know, a traditional trigger wave right there with a nice big anchor behind it. But let's see if we can find anything that would show us that, you know, we were getting near the bottom somewhere over here and it'd be time to buy back in. Well, tough to say, but we do have a little bit of an uptrend going here in the VWAP. And again, kind of tough because technically this one is lower, but I mean by $6. So I mean, if we're keeping it real, let's call that a double bottom. So we're double bottoming right there. Our little VWAP waves getting higher. So you could call that a divergence right there. Yeah, we're not really coming down anymore, but still uptrending at that point. Again, you know, close to the zero. So nice little bullish sign right there. But we've got some bearish divergence going on the VWAP right there. Let's say you would have hit it when it crossed back over the zero. Would have hit it right on that candle. Right on that little 1 week doji star. So would have got the top. And on top of that, you know, if you were watching over this longer period right here, you know, not only did we have some bearish divergence on the VWAP, oh, sorry, that we had some super big bearish divergence on the momentum waves as well. What's up, puppy? What's up? Yeah. Is it raining? So that I mean, that right there, just knowing this strategy would have got you out on the top, in on the bottom, out on the top. It's not a bad gig, to be honest. You know, so far looking fairly bullish over here on the weekly. 16, 17, 18, you know, starting to get a little sideways clip on the VWAP. RSI still generally heading up. Fairly consistent spread, which, you know, not super strong, but better than it was down here. It's just that money flow though. We're definitely down. Which makes sense, you know, volume really hasn't been anything spectacular lately, but even with this little bit rise in the money flow, you know, we have been getting you know, some decent little pumps in there on the smaller time frames. Let's see, just for shits and giggles here, could we do the same thing on the daily chart? What do you think? Think we can? Do you see it? You see it yet? So we are going up. Got one right there. It might be a little tough to pick out of the pack. And then we still had some more to the upside. So this one would have been a little rough. You know, because we would have been looking, maybe saw this, maybe you called that. Came to where we crossed zero. If you went out when we crossed zero, it would have got you to there. And even though, you know, VWAP was still heading down, although we did have that little bump to the upside, which basically got us that last little bit to the peak. But you know, the VWAP does behave slightly different on the higher time frames, largely because, you know, there's so much time, so much action, so much volatility in every single candle that I've noticed, you know, when you're on smaller time frames, you know, maybe here's where you enter, here's where you exit. Not in this case, that would have been a bad exit, but as you can see on the higher time frames here, you know, oftentimes it's coming, dipping down, coming back up, coming below, and still going up. So you got to do a little bit more than just looking at one time frame, which you should be doing anyways. But let's see here. I'm curious if we have. Yeah, no money flow. I mean, we have money flow divergence here on this first leg for sure. Have it on the second. Let's see. Not quite enough of a bump right here to call bullish on the money flow. Oops, didn't mean to do that. But we did have this guy right there. Nothing on the momentum waves this. You know, it did get a bit of an uptrend going here, even though we're seeing it in the price already. Yeah, a little sketchy on this one, so no bullish on that guy, but we did have bullish divergence going on the VWAP. You know, so if you were watching and you were looking for a sign from above, it's about the only place you would have caught it. So what do you guys think? Was this, let me know. Do you think it was helpful? Good to know? I think it's good stuff to know. I mean, shit, I'm definitely going to use it. And I also wanted to show you the application to these higher time frames, using it to try to better time, you know, market tops, market bottoms. Because, you know, aside from just trading, if you are doing some longer term investing, being able to find, you know, tops and bottoms is super clutch. 'Cause I can't count how many times I've been, you know, I'd be riding something down and you're sitting there asking yourself, like, you know, okay, are we at the bottom? Are we at the bottom? Is this it? Should I buy here? You know, maybe you've got a bunch. Maybe you don't want a dollar cost average. You know, maybe you got 500, 1,000 you want to throw into the hodl position, and you're trying to figure out where best to purchase at. You know, being able to, you know, find some divergences, some divergi. Some of these divergences could help you get the most for your money. And again, you know, it could be tough. You know, you see this, you know, you see that. That one's a little sketchy right there. I wouldn't necessarily want to go off of that. But say you saw this. Yeah, technically, that's a little higher. So, should have been discounting that one. Stuck it out, waited till there. But, you know, it's tough to do in the moment. You know, it's easy to go back on the chart and look and say, hey, there it is. But, you know, when you're in the moment, when you're feeling it, when the pressure is up, when you're wondering where to put your hard-earned money, it can be tough. So remember, if you can, try to look for multiple indications, look at different time frames, get you some confirmation. You know, if you want to set like a hard number of confirmations, say you're not going to go in unless you see 3 of them. And that's your number. And if you see 4 or 5, you know, you're cocky McCockerson in there, super confident, like, oh yeah, we got it. Oh, that's it. That's a wrap. Call up Forbes. I'm gonna be a millionaire. So, all right. I hope everybody enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's anything else you want to see. And, oh, super shout out to, I believe, is it Desmond? Are you the one who mentioned this? Yes, shout out to Desmond Akahomen for having this idea. Very, very good idea for a video. I very much appreciate that. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope I did it justice for you. Made it both informative and maybe a little bit entertaining. Didn't go too far into the jokes, but you know, I try not to talk boring. Try not to do the monotone thing. Actually, I don't know. It's not that I try. I just naturally talk like a friggin' weirdo. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was good for you as well. Kick back, put your head on the pillow, smoke a cigarette. Yes, sir. Later. Oh, stay free. Stay happy. Don't be stressed out. Remember, start looking at motivation. Start watching some of them damn motivational videos. Start looking at some of them self-help books if you got to. Do it on audio. Listen to it in the car. If you need some, hit me up. I'll figure out. I got a bunch. I'll figure out a way to get it to you. So yeah, remember, stay up. Always be improving. Always be improving. Yeah, I can't talk. Time to cut it.